Okay, welcome to our RootsMagic webinar. My name is Michael Booth. I am Vice President of RootsMagic and one of its developers. And with us tonight is the Roots magician himself, Bruce Buzbee. Bruce, of course, is President of RootsMagic and its author. Tonight's topic is Family Search Made Easy with RootsMagic. We'll be looking at the RootsMagic genealogy software and how it simplifies working with FamilySearch, giving you free access to billions of genealogical records, as well as letting you collaborate and share information with people around the globe. Those of you that are new to FamilySearch or RootsMagic will learn all you need to get started. And if our past webinars are any indication, you RootsMagic veterans out there will also learn a thing or two. But before we dive right in, let's cover a few ground rules for the webinar. Okay, first of all, time zone differences. One of the biggest questions we receive about these webinars have to do with time zones. Okay, if you have any questions, go to thetimezoneconverter.com and you can enter in the time that we post, and we are located in approximately Salt Lake City in the Mountain Time Zone, and that will give you the time in your local time zone if you have any questions when the webinars begin. Second of all, this webinar is being recorded, and it will be made available at rootsmagic.com/webinars. Okay, these recorded webinars, you are free to show them and use them in any meetings, user groups, trainings, etc. Or if you just want to curl up one night and for an enjoyable evening and reminisce about this webinar, you're free to watch it over and over again at your convenience. Okay, you may have noticed that little box up there in the corner of your screen. That is the GoToWebinar control panel. The little red arrow button is to open up the control panel. That blue square is to expand the webinar to full screen so you can see everything better. And then the last button is to raise your hand if you need to get our attention for anything. Okay, if you click on the red arrow, you can expand the control panel, and there's a box where you can type questions. And you just click on that send button, and the questions will appear here. And then if you want to close that control panel, just click on that red arrow. Okay, regarding questions, please keep the questions on topic. This isn't the best place for technical support. If you have any questions about things that do not have to do with FamilySearch, please email those to support@rootsmagic.com. Also, because we have so many attendees, we may not be able to respond to every question. During the presentation, I'm going to be monitoring the questions, and as I see questions, certain trends, or a question that's asked many times, I can interrupt Bruce and ask the question on behalf of you, the attendees. But we may not be able to get to all of them. Okay. Well, let's dive right in. Let's just look at an introduction to New FamilySearch itself. New FamilySearch is a collaborative online family tree. And it is just one of many services provided by FamilySearch, which is sponsored by the LDS Church. Those include the records that you can search on the website right now, indexing, the family history centers, etc. This new FamilySearch that we're going to be dealing with tonight is just a tiny piece of everything that they offer. The new FamilySearch, this collaborative family tree, is not yet available to the general public. The principal reason for that is because it's such a huge and demanding system. They need to get all the resources, the servers, the computational power out there to handle it, and they also want to get some of the kinks and everything smoothed out, so it's a very pleasant experience for the general public. That has not yet happened. Currently, only members of the LDS Church have access to the system. This just today in a webinar, FamilySearch representatives said that they hope to have this available testing to the general public by the end of the year. Okay, if you do not yet have access to New Family Search, you can kind of get a head start by registering and getting your account ready right now. If you go to new.familysearch.org, there is a link to register for the New Family Search. And if you click on that, another screen will come up, and it'll say registration, and there'll be a link there to you want to choose Family Search account if you're just for a general public account, and then just sit back and be patient. Okay, just wait until they open up the system, and they will let you know if you've created an account. They'll let you know as soon as it's available to you, and you'll have access to it. Okay. Now, if you've used Family Search in the past, you have probably used what I like to call the old Family Search ponds. These ponds were separate record collections that you could search and find information in them. For example, there's the ancestral file, which has been around since the 70s. There's the newer pedigree resource file. There's the Temple Index Bureau. There's the IGI, an Ordinance Index. And then there's church membership records. All of these were separate ponds which could be searched. And it was pretty much a one-way street. Okay, you could search these ponds, find your ancestors, and you could download those into a GEDCOM file and put them in your own computer at home. However, it wasn't very easy or convenient to put information, share information that you had back into the lake. So what they did when they created the new Family Search system is they basically took all these individual ponds and they put them together into one big lake. The ancestral file, pedigree resource file, all these separate ponds were put together into one big lake that had much smarter searching capabilities, and instead of being a one-way street, it became a two-way street, where not only was it very easy to search and pull information out, but you could also very easily put information in, which makes it a perfect platform for sharing and collaborating with others. Okay, working with this lake, there are a couple ways you can do it. First way is to use the new Family Search website, which is how most people, when they're getting started, they'll use the website. They'll go to their web browser, type new.familysearch.org, and they can see the information in there. Okay? The second way to access the lake is through certified desktop software, of which RootsMagic is one of them. Okay. The advantages to using desktop genealogy software over, say, just using the website, you have all the abilities and features of the website. That includes the collaboration, the LDS ordinances, discussions, etc. It allows you to keep information on living persons. That's a big one because Family Search, because of privacy concerns, they cannot publish or make public information about a living person. So if you want to keep information about just yourself or your spouse or your children or grandchildren, you would need desktop software to keep track of that information. Also, if you want to keep detailed notes, sources, pictures, video, to record private information. Maybe there's something that you're just researching a bit of information and and you aren't certain that it's correct and you aren't ready to make that public. Well, if you're using RootsMagic, you can record that private information and keep it there until you're ready to go public with it. Or perhaps you have a skeleton in the family closet that you want to record it. It's part of your family history, but you don't want to put it out there for everyone to see. Okay, that's one of the advantages of desktop software. Being able to keep track of your people. Instead of dealing with a lake with billions of people, you just will have the people that matter to you that you're researching, your own direct line or maybe collateral lines of ancestors and descendants. And then finally, if you want to make charts, reports, wall charts, books, shareable CDs, or more, these can all be done with the desktop software. RootsMagic 4 was rebuilt from the ground up with FamilySearch in mind. It's not a separate add-on utility. It's not just some screen which is tacked onto the software. We have been working with FamilySearch for many years now in the planning stages, and because of that, we are able to build RootsMagic with many of these features, FamilySearch features, closely integrated into what you're doing, as you'll see. RootsMagic can directly import data from Path and other programs, and as we like to call it, RootsMagic is FamilySearch made easy. Okay, FamilySearch has a certification program. I mentioned that before, about certified desktop programs. In order to become certified with FamilySearch, you have to jump through quite a few hoops. They have criteria and requirements, and I like to say that it's like Boy Scout trying to get his Eagle Scout. You've got all those merit badges that you've got to get, and you even have a board of review where you need to stand before them and you know, look at stuff and make sure security, make sure it's working well with the system. We have received several certifications from FamilySearch. The first one was Path Import, Path, of course, being personal ancestral file, a very common and popular genealogy program which has not been updated. So RootsMagic can import a file from Path. It's also Access, Sync, and Update certified, which simply means that you can copy information from FamilySearch into your RootsMagic file, and you can copy information from your RootsMagic file and put it into FamilySearch to share with others. It's print certified, meaning it can print charts, reports, and books from information in FamilySearch. RootsMagic was the first software, and currently the only software, certified to participate in FamilySearch discussions. And these are important, as we'll see, if you want to talk with other people and make connections regarding people in the lake. RootsMagic was also the first to be certified to reserve and request LDS ordinances, and also the first to be helper certified. In 2009, they had the FamilySearch Software Awards, and up against other programs, RootsMagic won the awards for Best Dashboard and the easiest to sync. And the easiest to sync for us was huge, because that was something that we worked very hard on to keep RootsMagic very easy to use and make the experience very enjoyable. And so we feel very gratified to have won that award. And in this past year, RootsMagic also won the Trailblazer Award for our work in pioneering and basically being the first to incorporate many of the new features which FamilySearch has introduced. Okay, now let's talk about matching up. Matching up is a crucial concept that you need to understand before you can work with RootsMagic and FamilySearch. If you can master this concept, most of the questions, most of the problems that people have take care of themselves. In matching up, basically you have a person person in your RootsMagic file. We'll call him John Smith. And somewhere in this giant lake, which is called New Family Search, you may or may not have a John Smith there. Now, John Smith, what you want to do is basically, using RootsMagic, you go fishing in the lake. And you say, hey, FamilySearch, do you have this John Smith that was born on such and such a date, died on such and such a date, his parents were so-and-so and whatnot? And if FamilySearch does not have that John Smith, FamilySearch simply says, go fish. But if John Smith is in the lake, they'll pop up. You can look at, you can compare the two, and if you decide that yes, that is your John Smith, then you create basically a link between the two. We do not like to use the word link for a very important reason. Linking, when you talk about genealogy and family history, to many people, they understand linking a parent to a child or linking a husband to a wife. In other words, linking usually means a relationship. So we use the term matching up, which means that you've identified the same person in your RootsMagic file and his counterpart, his or her counterpart, in the FamilySearch lake. Matching up is the #1 step before you can send information to FamilySearch about the person. That person must be matched up. Before you can retrieve information from FamilySearch about the person, that person must be matched up. Before you can participate in discussions with others about the person, he must be, you guessed it, matched up. And to check, reserve, and track LDS ordinances, the person must first be matched up. So as you can see, matching up is the gateway to doing anything between FamilySearch and RootsMagic. Okay, one other thing that we just want to talk about. You can imagine when they combined all of these ponds into one lake that there would be a lot of duplication. A person may have been in the ancestral file 10 times, and that same person would be in the IGI maybe another 10 times, and in the pedigree resource file, people submitted information for the same person 15 times. Well, when all this information was combined and pooled together into one lake, it meant that you had a lot of duplicates. Okay? So, FamilySearch, it basically, instead of merging the records, it combines those records, which is kind of like creating a file folder and stuffing all of those individual John Smiths into one folder called John Smith. And you look at that as if it's one record. The advantage to doing this is if in the future, if someone put the wrong John Smith in the folder, it's easy to undo. You can, well, easy is relative, but it's possible to undo and get that the bad John Smith out of that folder. RootsMagic takes care of the combining for you. So if you go fishing in the lake for John Smith and you find 10 John Smiths popping up, if you say that they are all the same as your John Smith, RootsMagic will combine them into one record for you in FamilySearch. This does not affect your RootsMagic file. This is just combining the records in FamilySearch. Okay, so with that introduction, I'm going to turn the time over to Bruce, and he is going to actually demonstrate the software in action.
Hi, welcome. What we're going to do here is we're going to spend a little bit of time showing how RootsMagic is going to work with New Family Search. Now, I'm going to break this into two parts. As Mike mentioned, New Family Search, this one collaborative database, is currently in what you might call something like a beta, where it's only open to members of the LDS Church. Later this year, it will become open to everybody. So the first part of what I'm going to be showing you is what everybody eventually will be able to access. In other words, the things you'll be able to do: matching, sharing data, participating in discussions with others, all of those kind of things. I will then spend a little bit of time on a few features that are specific to LDS members, LDS church members, and that would have to do with ordinances. So it's going to be broken into a couple of different halves. So the first thing, when I come into RootsMagic, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import file from a different program. A lot of people will have data in PAF or another program, and so they're going to want to import their data. So let's just go ahead and do that. I'm going to click on Import File from a different program, and I'm going to go ahead and select which program I'm going to import this data from. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and choose a PAF file. Now at this point, I could say search for files, or I can say I know where the file is. I'm going to go ahead and choose that in this case, and I'm going to select the PAF file. Now this could be just as easily a GEDCOM, a Legacy, a Family Tree Maker, or some other type of file. I'm going to tell RootsMagic to open this or import this PAF file. RootsMagic now asks me to create a new RootsMagic file to import this data into. So I can type whatever name I want. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and use the same file name as the PAF file. It's not going to be a problem because it'll have a different extension. Now, when I create a new file, there's one option that I'm interested in, and that is going to be this one right here, the new FamilySearch Support. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the new FamilySearch Support and click OK. RootsMagic is going to create my file and import that PAF data. Now, by turning on that new FamilySearch Support, every person in my file now has a little FamilySearch icon next to their name. And it's going to be gray like this, meaning that this person has not been matched up to new FamilySearch yet. As Mike mentioned, that's an important thing. We want to be able to say this John Rostron Booth is the same as this other John Rostron Booth up on new FamilySearch. So as Mike mentioned, the first thing we want to do is find matches. So let's say I want to find a match for Heber Thomas Booth. I can go ahead and click the little FamilySearch icon, and when I do that, RootsMagic comes up and asks me to log in to new FamilySearch. Now, as Mike mentioned, at this point, LDS members are the ones that are able to log in. You can actually go to that FamilySearch website and create a FamilySearch account, but if you are not LDS yet, currently, if you try to do this, it's going to come up and basically say that you don't have access yet. Later this year, you will be able to log in here and use this as well. Okay. Now, there's a couple of things you can do. You can enter your login name and your password, and if I click sign in, it's going to log me in, and every time I come into the program, into RootsMagic, and try to access a FamilySearch feature, it's going to bring up this same screen. But I have a couple of options here. I can come up and I can say remember my sign-in name and password. If I do that, whenever I log into FamilySearch through RootsMagic, it's already going to have my login name and password here, so I can just come up to here and click sign in. I can also choose automatically log in, which just completely bypasses this screen, so that anytime I need to use a new FamilySearch feature, it's going to go ahead and automatically log in for me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type in a login and a password. I'm going to actually pause my screen here for just a second while I do that. You should still be able to hear me. And I'm going to log in here. Okay. Now you should be able to see my screen. I logged in to new FamilySearch, and this particular screen, you'll notice I have 3 tabs on our FamilySearch Person Tools. I have a tab called Find Matches, I have a tab called Share Data, and I have a tab called Discussions. We're going to cover each one of those one at a time. Now, at this point, RootsMagic has automatically gone out and looked for matches on FamilySearch, and it's found one. Okay, this is my RootsMagic person right here with the RootsMagic tree in front of it. And this is my summary information, the name, the birth date, birthplace, death date, death place. And as I scroll over, the father, mother, and spouse. Okay, and RootsMagic is going to color code those possible matches. So if the data matches, we're going to show that possible match in green. If it's kind of close but is different in some ways, for example, here somebody decided that San Francisco had a hyphen in it and didn't have any vowels, then it's going to be yellow. If the data doesn't match, then it's going to be red. So it's like a stoplight. Green means go, red means stop, yellow means slow down. Okay, now at this point, we're not always going to have a match that looks this good. We're not going to have solid green all the way across for matches. So we may want to actually see our person in RootsMagic side by side with this person on FamilySearch to see an even more detail. And to do that, we just click on the little information icon that tells us we can compare in more detail. Now, when I do that, RootsMagic brings up a screen that shows my person in RootsMagic right here side by side with that possible FamilySearch match. Now, you'll see in RootsMagic, I only have one name for this person. FamilySearch has several choices: Heber Thomas Booth, Heber Thomas, Heber T. Booth. What this means is, as Mike mentioned, there were a lot of duplicates out on New FamilySearch. So as these duplicate records were combined, there were different names that are created into this newly combined record right here. Same thing goes for all of these different birth events. You'll see I have 5 different birth events with the same date and pretty much the same place, but a little bit different. When you combine these records, New FamilySearch keeps all of those possible combinations. And I can go ahead and scroll down to see how my data matches up with New FamilySearch. Once again, it's using the color coding. Green matches, yellow is kind of a match, red means it doesn't match. And I can actually look at the data, names, events, but I can also come down here and look at relationships. So my Heber Thomas Booth in RootsMagic and Heber Thomas Booth on FamilySearch both have John Roster and Booth as the father, Elizabeth Howarth as the mother. They both have Elizabeth Warren and the same children. So I can be pretty sure that my RootsMagic Heber Thomas Booth is the same as this New FamilySearch Heber Thomas Booth. So to match them up, I just click the checkbox and I say match them up with FamilySearch. Once I've done that, my RootsMagic person is now shown as being matched up with that person on FamilySearch, and RootsMagic looks to see if there's any other matches up on FamilySearch. Now, what's nice is if I have more than one possible match and I choose those, I check several possible matches, when I say match with FamilySearch, RootsMagic is going to tell me that it needs to combine all of those duplicates up on FamilySearch. In other words, it says, well, you said this Heber and this Heber and this other Heber are all the same as yours. Therefore, those 3 Hebers up on FamilySearch need to be combined together. And so we will take care of that automatically for you. Now, once you've done a match like this, you can start going into the other 2 tabs. I can switch over to the Share Data tab. And at this point, I can see my RootsMagic person side by side with what's now called my FamilySearch person. Now this screen looks like the one I popped up earlier to compare my RootsMagic person with a possible FamilySearch match. The difference is that now it's not a possible FamilySearch match, it's an actual FamilySearch match because I told RootsMagic these 2 are the same person. My RootsMagic person is the same as that one out on FamilySearch. Okay? So the difference you're going to see here on the screen are going to be these little check boxes. Other than that, all the information is exactly the same. But what these check boxes on either side let me do is share data back and forth between RootsMagic and FamilySearch. So if I came into here and I saw these extra birth events and I decided that I actually wanted this birth event in RootsMagic for some strange reason, even though it's completely different from all of the other births in New FamilySearch, I can check that checkbox and RootsMagic is going to give me two options. I can add that as a new event in RootsMagic. In other words, I can add a birth, born in 1881 in Provo, Utah, or I can replace the birth event that I already have. So I have some flexibility as to how I want to handle moving that data over. So if I were to say I want to add that as a new event in RootsMagic and click OK, RootsMagic has now added that event from FamilySearch into RootsMagic and matched it up with a copy that's already out over there on FamilySearch. Now this goes both directions. For example, if I came down and I found some information that I have in RootsMagic that's not over on FamilySearch, I can click and add that as a new event in FamilySearch. So what's nice about this is it allows me to share data back and forth between RootsMagic and FamilySearch, but it is only going to copy the data that I actually want. It's not going to just automatically throw data back and forth between the two. Now, as I scroll farther down, I can also see that there's some relationship information right here. So if I am looking at relationships, I can see that in FamilySearch, I have John Rostrom Booth and Elizabeth Howarth. I also have two other sets of parents as well to choose from. And in RootsMagic, I have John Rostrom Booth and Elizabeth Howarth. Now you'll notice that instead of the little check boxes like we had with events, we have the little FamilySearch icon. And the reason for that is when we're working with things like names and events, we are usually just wanting to copy that information back and forth. Copy it from RootsMagic to FamilySearch, or copy it from FamilySearch to RootsMagic. And in the case of relationships, we're not necessarily copying it back and forth, although we can. But what we're usually doing is we're actually trying to match a person in our file with a person on FamilySearch. So when I look, I've got John Rostrom Booth as a father, born in 1836, and FamilySearch has John Rostrom Booth, born in 1836, as a father. Now, if I'm not sure if those two are the same person, I can click the little information icon. You'll find these all over in the FamilySearch screens. I can click on that, and I can see my John Rostrom Booth side by side with the FamilySearch John Rostrom Booth to make sure that they really are the same person. If they are, I can go ahead and click on the little icon, and in this case, I don't want to add John to my file because I've already got him. I want to match up with my John Rostrom Booth. When I do that, RootsMagic turns those two John Rostrom Booths green, showing that they've been matched up, and also turns the little FamilySearch icon to blue, showing they're matched up. Now, you'll notice that the John Rostrom Booth on the next line also has a FamilySearch, blue FamilySearch icon, meaning that this John Rostrom Booth is also matched up there. He's not shown on across from that John Rostrom Booth because up on FamilySearch, he has a different spouse. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to match up Elizabeth Howarth with my Elizabeth Howarth, and you can see that. Now, if I decided that this Elizabeth Lowe and Elizabeth Howarth up on FamilySearch really were the same person, what I can do is I can click on this FamilySearch icon, and I can say, instead of adding as a new mother over here in RootsMagic, I can say match Elizabeth Lowe with my Elizabeth Howarth. Now, if I do that, RootsMagic is going to ask me about combining the records. Now, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to explain that what that means is it would combine this Elizabeth Lowe with this Elizabeth Howarth up on FamilySearch, and this particular family or set of parents, father and mother, will disappear because this couple, John Rostrom Booth, Elizabeth Lowe, would basically be the same couple as John Rostrom Booth and Elizabeth Howarth because the father is the same person, and by combining, the mother is then the same person as well. Okay, and I can continue and do that the rest of the way with the other family members as well. Okay, let's go ahead and switch over to the third tab, Discussions. Now, in the early days of New Family Search, there was a feature called...
Bruce?
Yes?
Sorry to interrupt you. We had some questions about deleting data that you'd put on there.
Okay, let's go back to the share data screen. Okay, in FamilySearch, there's a rule. You can delete whatever you have added. If somebody else added the information, you cannot delete that information. In fact, that's what we're going to talk about when we move over to those discussions. If you have added some data to New Family Search, when you click right here, you're going to have an option right here. In addition to the add as a new event or replace an existing event, you'll have an option right here that says delete this piece of information from New Family Search. Okay, so and that's only going to show up if you actually added that information yourself. If somebody else added it, you cannot delete that information. Now, as I was mentioning on the discussions, in the early days of New Family Search, there was a feature called disputes. And what you could do is, if you came across a piece of information that you didn't agree with, you couldn't delete it, but you could do what was called dispute it. In other words, you could say, I disagree with this information, and here's why. Now, in theory, that sounds like a great concept. The practical application of that, though, was that if somebody disputed a fact in New Family Search, the person who added it could not delete that information themselves until that dispute was removed. Okay, so what that means is if somebody came along and added a piece of information and you disputed it and said, this information is wrong, I have a birth certificate that states otherwise. If that person that added that then looks and says, oh, okay, that's correct. Well, they could not delete that piece of information even though they added it until they contacted you and had you go in and remove your dispute. Now, if a bunch of people disputed it, every single person that disputed it had to remove it had to remove that dispute before the person could delete that piece of information. So nowadays, what's brand new is disputes are no longer put in, and what is there now is what are called discussions. So instead of going in and disputing a piece of information and having it locked up, you can now go in and you can create a discussion for each person, or multiple discussions for each person. When you want to create a discussion, you go into the Discussions tab and you click Start a New Discussion. When you start a new discussion, you can enter a title for your discussion, in other words, kind of a brief line of what you want to talk about, and then a comment. So you could come in and say, this person's death date, such and such, is incorrect, and in the comment you can say, this person's death date is incorrect because I have a death certificate that states that this other date is the actual death date. You fill that in and click OK, and RootsMagic will create a new discussion right here and display the full discussion over here on the right side. Okay. Now, when I add a discussion here in RootsMagic, that discussion is instantly added on the New Family Search website, and vice versa. If somebody adds a discussion in New Family Search on the website, that discussion automatically shows up right here in RootsMagic. Okay, RootsMagic is the only genealogy program that actually supports discussions at this time. So to do discussions, you can do that from the website, or you can do it in RootsMagic. Those are the only two places that you can do that right now. Now, whenever you add a discussion, people can make comments on that discussion. So when you come into this screen, if there are a list of discussions, you can click on that list of discussions, and RootsMagic will display the discussion, and there will be places right there where you can say, I want to comment on this discussion. So if somebody came along and added a discussion, like I mentioned, said this death date's wrong because I have a death certificate that states otherwise, you could come into that discussion, add a comment to it, and say, I have an obituary that states that that date is correct. And so what you're doing is people can discuss. So one person says, I've got a death certificate, so that's wrong. But another person can say, I've got an obituary that says it's right. And so what you're doing is you're working with other people on that common person to basically flesh out what information there is on that person and hopefully make that data better. Okay, now I'm going to come back to the discussions. Like I say, they're really very simple to use there. I'm going to come back to the Find Matches because there's a couple of buttons on that Find Matches tab that I want to mention. When we came in to find matches for this person, RootsMagic displayed a match. We selected it and clicked Match with FamilySearch. Now, sometimes RootsMagic may not find any matches on FamilySearch. If that's the case, there's an option in RootsMagic to say Search for More Matches. And what this will let you do, when I click on this, it's going to bring up a screen where I can fill in data to look for other additional matches beyond the ones that FamilySearch says are very good matches. So on this screen, this is similar to the one that you would see up on the FamilySearch website, where you can enter names, parents, spouse, and events. The difference between using it here and on FamilySearch is that RootsMagic already pre-fills all those fields for you, so you don't have to type those in. So I can select whatever information I want and click Search. RootsMagic is going to begin searching, and it's going to add those possible matches right here to the list, just as if they were finding the automatic ones. Now this is where you're going to start seeing a lot of the red, because these particular matches, 95% of the time, are not going to be actual matches for your person. Those are usually found automatically. But occasionally you will find kind of that diamond in the rough match that happens to be in there, so it's always a good thing to try that. But you'll see you're going to get a lot of the little red, meaning that the data doesn't match. If you want to see one of these possible matches side by side with your person, again, click on the little information icon. Now, the third button, Add to FamilySearch, and you'll notice that that's grayed out right now. That button is in case you come into this person and RootsMagic does not find any automatic matches, and clicking on Search for More Matches does not find any matches. If you decide that your person is not on New FamilySearch already because it couldn't find them no matter how hard you searched, you can click Add to FamilySearch, and RootsMagic will add your person to FamilySearch, so you don't have to go in and retype all their information up on FamilySearch. RootsMagic will take care of that before you. Now, the reason it's grayed out here is because I'm already matched up on FamilySearch. So RootsMagic knows that Heber Thomas Booth is up on New FamilySearch because I matched to him, so that's why it's disabled. But when you first come in, that Add to New FamilySearch will be there. Okay. Now, on the Share Data tab, there also are a couple of buttons that we'll cover. Edit RootsMagic Person will open up the edit screen for my person in RootsMagic. If I click on that, there's my person in RootsMagic. I can go in and add, edit, delete information. I can go modify this person however I want to right from the person's edit screen. If I click Show on FamilySearch, it's going to open up a browser to the New FamilySearch to this person, and what that will let me do if I want to is manually edit this person out on FamilySearch. So Edit RootsMagic Person lets me edit the person on RootsMagic. Show on FamilySearch lets me edit that person out on FamilySearch. And UnMatch is in case you've matched up your person with a person on FamilySearch and decide that they actually aren't the same person. If that's the case, click on UnMatch, and that will unmatch these two people from each other so that you can go look for the correct matches. Okay, now I'm going to close this screen real quick, and I'm going to point out one little thing. You'll notice that on this screen right here that 3 of these icons are now blue, and that is because I had matched up Heber, John, and Elizabeth, because I had clicked on Heber's little gray FamilySearch icon and found his match and matched him up. If you remember, his parents, John and Elizabeth, I had matched up from his screen. That's why they show as matching. So I can match up people one at a time here by clicking on the little gray FamilySearch icon, or I can match up relatives from a person's actual family search screen. Now, there is a way to do a lot of this matching more automatic, and we're going to cover that in a little bit. But you don't necessarily have to go through these one at a time to do it, unless you want to do it that way. Okay, now I'm going to go back in. I'm going to go back into the family search screen, and you'll notice that when I clicked on a blue family search icon, in other words, the icon for somebody that's already matched up, instead of jumping into the Find Matches screen, it jumps right into the Share Data screen because I am already matched up. Okay, now all these things that we've been showing you have been on one individual. We clicked on the little family search icon for one individual, and we went in and we found matches for that person, we shared data for that person, and we talked about discussions for that person. But over here on the left of the screen, you'll see a little button, and as I move my pointer over it, you'll see it kind of turns greenish. If I click on that little button, RootsMagic will jump out a little list of everybody that's in my file. So as I scroll up and down, there's everybody in my database. And you'll see that a couple of these people have a little family search icon next to their name. If I click on John Rostron Booth, RootsMagic's immediately going to start showing me the share data for that screen. I don't have to click it and then tell it to do something. As soon as I click on that, it's going to automatically load up the Find Matches screen, the Share Data screen, and any discussions for that person. And it's also going to show me which people have already been matched up by putting the little icon. So if I want to go through here, I could click on a person's name, and RootsMagic is immediately going to look for matches. And once it's found a match, I can say go ahead and match that person up. And when I've matched that person up, RootsMagic now shows that person is matched up, and I can come in and see their share data screen and look at their discussions. Okay. Now I do want to show you one other thing here. If I have not matched up yet, okay, in other words, I've selected a person here and RootsMagic is showing me a possible match, but I haven't actually done the matching. If that's the case, when I go to share data, RootsMagic is not going to show me the family search person because I have not matched up yet. So it's going to tell you, click the Find Matches tab to find those matches. The same thing will go for the discussions as well. Now, you may not want to work with your entire database all at once. You know, you might have 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 people, and you might feel like that's kind of overkill. Well, you have some filtering options up here at the top, and I'm going to show this bottom one first. Okay, no extra filtering. I can click on that, and I can say, oh, only show me the people that I've actually already matched up to Family Search, and RootsMagic is going to give me just a list of those people that I've actually matched up, in this case, those 4 people. Or I can say, oh, only show me the people that have not matched to Family Search, and I'm going to see everybody that has not been matched up yet. Okay? There's a third option here, people that have changed on Family Search. One of the things you'll discover if you're working with new Family Search from the website is that there's not a way to have Family Search other than there's a new feature called a watch feature, which they've just added, which will kind of let you do this on a one person at a time type of thing. RootsMagic currently does not have that watch feature enabled because we are waiting for Family Search to make that available to us. As soon as I make that watch feature available to us, we will be able to add that. And what that is, for those who aren't familiar with it, is a way to say, if this person changes out on Family Search, send me an email telling me. What RootsMagic can do, though, is since RootsMagic knows which people you actually are interested in on Family Search because you've matched them up, RootsMagic can come up and it will be able to tell you, oh, these 5 people have changed down on Family Search since the last time you looked at it. And so that, if I click on that, that's going to show me those people that have changed down on Family Search since the last time I looked at it. Okay, the last 4 items here are LDS specific, and as I mentioned, we're going to cover those in a little bit right after we do this. So, The second, that's the first set of filtering. Now, that's nice, but you may want to get even more sophisticated in how you filter a group of people. So I can click the filter, which is normally off, which means everybody is included, and I can say, I only want to see the ancestors of a person. And you can choose whichever person that is. It can be you or whatever. So you might say, I'm only interested in me and 4 generations worth of ancestors. That's all I really want to work with on FamilySearch right now. So you choose that starting person, how many generations you're going to have, click OK, and RootsMagic is going to display just that list. So now the only people I have listed are the 4 generations of ancestors of that person I selected. Now what's nice is that these two filters work together. So if I want to see just the ancestors of a particular person, but I'm also only interested in those that are actually matched to FamilySearch, I can do that. And what I'm going to get is the people who are matched to FamilySearch that are within the first 4 generations of ancestors for that person I selected. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and turn off this extra filtering again and show you how, if you want to get even more specific, I'm going to go ahead and click on the filter button, and there's an option right here to select a group of people. In RootsMagic, there's a feature called Named Groups. Okay, this is a feature that's been in RootsMagic version 4 from day 1, and what that lets you do is select any group of people. You can pick random people. You can pick, a certain group and give that group a name. So if I say I want to select so that I only filter to a particular group of people, I choose that, and RootsMagic is going to pop up the named group screen. Now I can create as many groups as I want here. So I'm going to say create a new named group, and I can come down through here and I can see a list of the people in my database, and I can do this the hard way. I can just come down here and randomly select people and click OK, and RootsMagic asks me for a name for that group. Okay, and I'm just going to call this group Random People. Okay, so I now have a group called Random People. I'm going to go create another one. And instead of doing it that hard way, I'm going to say I want to mark a group of people. I want to mark more than one person at a time. So I can mark the family of the highlighted person, everyone in their tree, the ancestors or descendants of a person, and I can choose how many generations and so on. I can select everybody that's living, dead, or I can select people by data fields. And what that's going to do is that's going to let me choose people based on any piece of information I want. So let's go ahead and do that. And when I bring that up, it brings up this screen. It might look a little intimidating, but it's really quite easy. So I'm going to come in here and I could say select a field, and I can choose, let's choose any piece of information. I can choose events like birth, death, burial, or any fact that's built in. I can choose things like names. So I can come in and say a person's given name or a surname or whatever. Let's go ahead and pick birth. And once I select a particular event, RootsMagic asks what part of the event am I wanting to look for. And I can say, oh, I want to compare on their birth date, their birthplace details, birth value, note, source, whatever. I can go by their birth age. Now, I haven't had a lot of luck with birth age. It always seems to be 0 for some reason. But age does work really well for things like death. I can go and say, I want to find everybody whose death age is greater than 70 or whose death age is less than 20. That will let me do things like find everybody who lived to be at least 70 or who died before they were 20. So I'm going to go ahead and pick place in this case. So I'm going to I want it to mark everybody whose birthplace contains, and we'll go ahead and put England. So in other words, I want to mark everybody whose birthplace contains England. Now I can get fancier than this because I can say I want that and or this and or this and or this and or this. So I can get as fancy as I want, but I'm just going to simplify this. I want everybody whose birthplace contains England. RootsMagic goes through and it's marked 124 people. I'm going to go ahead and select OK. And I'm going to call this one Born in England. Okay, so now I have a couple of groups. I have a group called Born in England. I have one called Random People. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Now I have my different groups right here. I can select it right here, or I can go back in and create even more groups or edit these groups. But I'm going to go ahead and stick with Born in England. When I click OK, my filter is now only people who were born in England. So as I go down through this group, I'm only going to see people who were born in England. Okay, I can also go in and say I want random people. Click OK, and there's those people that I randomly checked. And so I have just a list of those randomly selected people. So you can get as fancy as you want. You can filter any way you want. And again, you can mix and match that filter with the filtering about people that are matched, not matched, or changed, or any of these others that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Okay. Now, what we've been doing so far has all been based on one screen called our Family Search Person Tools. And the way we've gotten to that is by clicking on that little Family Search icon next to each person's name. Now there's a second...
Hey, Bruce?
Yes?
Some questions about people. If you have an existing RootsMagic file and you do not see those Family Search icons, how do you turn them on?
Okay, great question. If you don't have those Family Search icons, you've already got your data in RootsMagic, what you're going to do is you're going to come up to the Tools menu, you're going to click on that, and you're going to come down here to File Options. In other words, options that have to do with this file. When you do that, you're going to have a section over here called Family Search. You're going to choose that Family Search category, and there'll be a checkbox right here, Enable Family Search Support, and you'll just check that and click OK, and that will turn those little icons on for you. Likewise, if you want to turn them back off for some reason, temporarily or whatever, just go into Tools, File Options, select that Family Search category, and uncheck that checkbox, and it turns the Family Search icons off. Okay, the next screen, the second screen that I'm going to show you is what's called FamilySearch Central. It's what's called a dashboard, and you get to it by clicking the little Family Search icon up here on the toolbar. Now, when you turn on that Family Search Support, it will add this toolbar button. If you don't have that toolbar button on right now, when you turn on the Family Search Support, it will add that button to the toolbar for you. So when I click on that, RootsMagic brings up what's called Family Search Central. And this is our award-winning dashboard that won that Family Search Software Award for the best dashboard. And what Family Search Central is going to do is it's going to give you a couple of buttons up here, Find Matches and Share Data. All that does is brings up that Family Search Person Tools that we mentioned. Either if I click on Find Matches, it opens up that screen, open to the Find Matches tab. If I click on the Share Data button, it's going to open it up to the Share Data tab. There's also a couple of other buttons, and I'm going to come right back to those in just a second. Now, I can also log in or log out from this screen, and I can also get an overview of how many of my people are matched or not matched to Family Search. If I click on any of these links, RootsMagic is going to, again, open up those Family Search tools with that list on the left filtered to only show the people that are not matched or whatever the category that I click on is. Now down here at the bottom is going to be a status, and this is just going to be a graphical pie chart that shows how many of your people are matched or not matched. So in this case, I have 4 people that I've matched up so far and 406 that I haven't. Okay, now as I mentioned, I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to actually change this, and that is with this feature right here called AutoMatch. When I click on AutoMatch, what RootsMagic is going to do, in fact, let me go ahead and start it and let it start running while we go. What AutoMatch is going to do is go through my database, my RootsMagic file, and find the people that have not already been matched up with New Family Search, and it's going to look for matches on New Family Search, and if it finds what Family Search calls a high quality match, in other words, when Family Search says, yes, this is the same person, RootsMagic will automatically match my person in RootsMagic with that person up on Family Search. Now you notice this is called AutoMatch. It's not called AutoSync, because all it's doing is it's saying this person in your RootsMagic file is the same as this person out on FamilySearch. It's not moving any data back and forth. It's not sending any of your information to FamilySearch, and it's not sending any of FamilySearch's data into your RootsMagic file. It's just saying these two are the same person. It's doing that thing that Mike said is so important, and that is matching. Now you notice in just the time I've been talking, AutoMatch has found 28 people. Now, AutoMatch is not necessarily a speed demon feature, because FamilySearch only allows a certain number of matches per minute to actually be done. It's a limitation that FamilySearch has so that programs don't go up there and just use all of FamilySearch's bandwidth. But we had one user who had 48,000 names in their database, and they had spent 3 months matching one at a time and had matched up 3,000 of their names over a 3-month period. Well, when we released AutoMatch, they ran AutoMatch, let it run for 60 hours. Yes, 60 hours, so 2-point-something days. But at the end of those 60 hours, RootsMagic had matched up another 38,000 of those names. So in other words, 60 hours to match up 38,000, or 3 months to match up 3,000. So it is a feature that you may want to just let run for a while, but it will go through and it will match those records up for you. Now, if I click cancel right here, RootsMagic is going to keep those 65, 66 people that it's already auto-matched. So I can click cancel and it's not going to lose everything it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and click cancel. RootsMagic, you'll see right now it's updated the screen right here. Instead of the 4 people matching, it now has 77 people matching. You'll also notice up here it's actually increasing this little count. It's showing that FamilySearch has new information for 69, 74 of my people. Okay, that's because FamilySearch Central was automatically matching people up, but I haven't looked at them. It was just matching them up. But since I haven't looked at them, that information, RootsMagic considers that as being new to me. So if I click on that, 74 people, RootsMagic brings up those FamilySearch person tools, and you'll see that, oh, I want to turn that off of random people, turn that back to everybody. RootsMagic is listing the people that have changed down on FamilySearch. So if I click on a person and look at this information, when I close this, I've looked at one of these people, you'll see that that 74 changed to 73. If I go back in to that, I would actually be able to click on another one. Once I've looked at that data, that number will drop to 72. I look at a second one, that number will drop to 71. Go ahead and close that, and you'll see, as I look at a person, FamilySearch assumes that I've now looked at that person, so that information is not new to me. Now, after an auto match, you may not want to go in there and look at each person. So there's an option here called Reset the Count. And if I click on Reset Count, RootsMagic asks, are you sure you want to set that to 0? And I'm going to say, yep. And I'm going to clear that count. And RootsMagic is going to clear that. And so now it's not showing me. Basically, it's saying none of that information that's out there has changed since the last time I looked at it. Last button I'm going to show you here is Import. When I click on Import, RootsMagic is going to let me import a tree. In other words, starting with some person, it's going to let me import that person and some number of generations of ancestors and descendants from FamilySearch. This has two great functions that it can do for you. The first one is if a person has no data, they've never entered anything into a genealogy program, they've never started, but there is data up on FamilySearch for them, they can select me and enter the number of generations of ancestors and descendants, and FamilySearch will import that information into a new blank database for you. The second option is if you find a piece of a tree out on FamilySearch, out on New FamilySearch, that you don't have any of that in your family tree, you can click on starting with the FamilySearch person with this ID, enter their ID, choose how many generations of ancestors and descendants, and you can import that piece of that tree from FamilySearch into your existing RootsMagic file so that you can then link it back up. Okay, now that right there is kind of an overview of the new FamilySearch features that are going to be made available to everyone. Like I say, we don't know when that's going to be. FamilySearch Department has said that their plan is to start making this available sometime this year. So RootsMagic is basically ready for this when it comes. So when it becomes available, it's not like you have to wait for us to get in there and program to let you start working with it. As soon as it becomes available to the general public, it's available right there for anybody to start using right away. Okay, I'm going to switch gears.
Hey, Bruce.
Yeah, let me take a couple of questions, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of switch gears, and I'm going to show some features of new FamilySearch specific to LDS people. Go ahead, Mike.
Before you do that, some people are asking about the FamilySearch records searching like basically the old records. Maybe we can show the WebSearch.
Yeah. Okay, so what we've been showing is what's called new FamilySearch. That's the one that's going to be made available. Okay, classic FamilySearch or old FamilySearch or the FamilySearch that everybody has access to right now can be accessed through WebSearch. So if I were to go ahead and click on the WebSearch tab, RootsMagic is going to let me choose what website I want to do. Like right now it's showing Ancestry. So whoever I click on over here on the left, it's going to search for them on Ancestry. But I'm going to go ahead and change this to FamilySearch. And when I click on FamilySearch, what RootsMagic is going to do is it is going to do a search out on FamilySearch, the current FamilySearch that's available to everybody for whoever is highlighted. So in this case, Heber Thomas Booth. So when I'm selecting Heber Thomas Booth, that's the site I have. So as I scroll down, you're going to see it's finding census records and so on. So you can scroll down through here. You can see all the results that you have for this particular person. And you can choose categories, census records, birth, death, burial, probate, military, so on. So you can choose the different types of records. RootsMagic has automatically filled in the forms for you to do that. If I go click on somebody else, when I click on that, RootsMagic is going to do the search out on New FamilySearch for that. Now I have the resolution really, really low in order to do this webinar. We're at just 800 by 600. So on your screen, you're actually going to see a lot more of this screen here than you do on this screen here during the webinar. But that is how you can actually go use the current FamilySearch. And this feature is open to everybody right now. So were there any other questions?
That's good for now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here to the pedigree, and like I say, I'm going to show features here that are specific to the LDS community. If you're not LDS, you're welcome to watch this. There's no big secrets or anything. These are just features that would be useful to LDS members. In the LDS faith, there are what are called ordinances. Most faiths have what are called ordinances, and in the LDS faith, that's one of the things people do. That's one of the things we do is we're looking for information. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back under the tools, and I'm going to come back here to the file options again. And in the file options, there's an option here called LDS Support. So if you want to turn on LDS Support, you just click that checkbox and click OK. Now, when you do that, you're going to get a new button next to each person's name. So in addition to the FamilySearch icon, you're going to have a little what's called a temple icon. And there's 4 different temple icons. A blue check mark means that person's temple ordinances are complete. Green means that person has temple ordinances that can be done. The little yellow warning sign means this person has has work that could be done, but that it's not available for you to do yet. And then there's a third one, or a fourth one, that's a little lock, which means that person's temple ordinances are on hold. They're actually already in progress or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and come back to this root person, and if I click on the little temple icon, you're going to see that there's a new tab. This is the exact same screen we were working with, where we had find matches, share data, and discussions. There's a fourth tab now called Ordinances. Like I say, if you're not LDS, you don't have to worry. You're not ever going to see this. This is going to show you the official ordinance status from FamilySearch for this person. It's going to show you, if the baptism and the confirmation have already been done. If they've been done, you're going to see the date and the place. If there are ordinances that are ready to be done, you'll see it'll show you that this is ready, and there'll be a checkbox that you can check that and click Reserve that ordinance. Now, reserving an ordinance is only going to do, let's go ahead and check that. It's going to, RootsMagic is going to basically do a check to see if this is going to be a duplicate. And in this case, it says you're asking to do this, but you've already done it with this other set of parents. And if you want to, you can view the duplicate, or you can say go ahead and continue reserving it. Okay, when you reserve those ordinances, you have a couple of options. You can say I will do them, or I want to assign those ordinances to others to do them. So you choose what you want. And finally, before you can actually reserve the ordinances, you basically have to agree with certain policies. And the reserve button is grayed out until you say that you've read and agreed with those policies. And basically those policies are privacy rules. In other words, if a person was born within the last 95 years, you have to get the permission of their nearest living relative, whether that's a living spouse, whether that's brothers and sisters, whether that's living children, whatever. And so you're basically, before you can reserve, you have to agree to follow those policies. Now, once I reserve an ordinance or ordinances, RootsMagic will change this from ready to reserved. And all that reserved means is that this person, somebody else cannot go in and reserve this same ordinance. And it's basically to keep multiple people from going in and reserving and then doing the same ordinance work over and over. It's to help get rid of duplication in terms of this. Okay, there's another button right here called Add to My File. So if you go into this ordinance screen, if you want this information in your RootsMagic file, you can just click Add to My File. RootsMagic is going to show you what you already have in RootsMagic for this person, and you can choose the ones that you want from FamilySearch and just say copy that over, and RootsMagic is going to copy those ordinances, that ordinance information from FamilySearch into RootsMagic. It'll do it all in one shot there. Okay, the last option is just an edit button that lets you edit that information. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. Now, as I mentioned, when you do that, when you reserve an ordinance, all that's doing is saying this cannot be reserved by somebody else. It does not get that information, that ordinance, ready for temple work. All it's doing is basically reserving it. It's adding it to your reserved ordinance list. So if you've gone to New FamilySearch website, that Temples tab at the top of that screen, that list of people, that's what RootsMagic is adding that ordinance to. So this is completely in sync with New FamilySearch. So the things you do here, reserving ordinances, are automatically reserved up on New FamilySearch. So I'm going to go back into FamilySearch Central here, and if you have LDS support turned on, you're going to have a couple of other buttons. You're going to have an Ordinances button, and you're going to have a Temple Work button. The Ordinances button works just like that Find Matches and Share Data. It's going to bring up that list of that FamilySearch Person Tool screen with the Ordinances tab selected. So that works just like clicking the Find Matches or the Share Data. But there's a button right here called Temple Work. And what Temple Work is going to do is it is going to let you actually take names that you've reserved and prepare them to do work in the temple for that person. Okay. The other part that's new is going to be this pie chart that's added to the status, which shows how many people that you've matched up to have their temple work done, how many are ready to, how many need more information, or how many have ordinances that are reserved or in progress. So I'm going to go ahead and click the temple work button. RootsMagic is going to load up a list of the people that are reserved in this particular reserved list. And sometimes this may take a little while, depends on how many names you have reserved, but once it brings this screen up, you will be able to go and select ordinances and then choose to do what's called print a request. In other words, a family ordinance request. You may have heard it called an FOR. Okay. What this is going to do is give you right here a list of all those people that you have in your reservation list. And when I click, if I click on baptism, that means I am ready to print a family ordinance request for that baptism. Over here I can see a summary, how many baptisms, confirmations, and so on I have for males, females, and total. So if I happen to click on confirmation and then unclick baptism, you'll notice it unchecks it. So it makes sure that all of these are selected so that each ordinance will be done in order. Now, once I've checked what I want for the group of people I want, I can click Print Request. RootsMagic will generate a family ordinance request, display it on my screen where I can print that, and I can then take that family ordinance request to the temple to have my cards printed, my little pink and blue cards printed. Okay. Now I'm going to switch over here to Requests. And when I click over here, RootsMagic is going to show me the family ordinance requests that I've already printed. Okay, in other words, the paper with the barcode, these are ones I've already printed, and it shows how many male, female, and sealing cards were printed in that particular request. So I can click on any one of these, and RootsMagic will show me the people that are in that ordinance request and which ordinances were available on that particular card. So if I click on a person, RootsMagic is going to show me a copy of the little card right here where I can kind of see what information was available. If I click on that little card, you'll see a larger card of that, and it's going to show you which items are available to be done, and you'll see like the ones that are blocked off, the ones that were not made available. And that's what the little shading versus the white is. The white are the ordinances that were made available. Now, if I print out a family ordinance request and the dog chews it up before I get to the temple, I can come back in here and select an ordinance request, and I can reprint that request. So I can reprint a family ordinance request so that I can take that to get the cards printed. Okay, finally, third step, and this is one I'm really excited about, is card tracking. Once you get your cards printed, RootsMagic is going to keep track of a list. It's going to keep a list of the cards that you have printed, and it's going to display those cards right here. And so if I select a particular card, again, it's going to show me the card. Again, if I click it, it's going to show me it larger. But I can see for each card what ordinances were available, and if an ordinance has been completed on that card, you'll see a little blue check mark. Okay, if all the ordinances on that card have been completed, you're going to see a check mark on the card itself. Okay, now you'll notice over here, last activity. This is the last activity that was actually done. Now, you'll notice Ann Saunderson, it shows that the last activity done for her was in 1895. Now, it might come as a surprise, but New Family Search was not available in 1895. So you may wonder, what does that mean? Basically, what happens is when you print out a card, FamilySearch keeps track of the fact that a card was printed. And that's what would have happened with Ann Saunderson. It would have printed out a card that had a sealing to parents available. But after that card was printed, somebody came along in New Family Search and did a combine on Ann Saunderson. And because of that combine, a existing sealing to parents ordinance became available for her so that you could see that that ordinance work is done. So even though it maybe wasn't actually done based on that card, that work was done, and so it's showing is done. Okay. Now here's the part that I really like. Most of the time when you print out one of these cards for FamilySearch, you're going to hand out some of them to other people to help you with. So let's say I go in and I select a group of people here, and I want to give those cards to somebody else. Well, I can say, give those to a helper. Now that helper can be me, and me is always going to be available there because you're the one that actually does that. And so I'm going to say I want to give those to a new helper. RootsMagic asks me to enter a name of a helper, and I'm going to put Aunt Martha. And then down here in the notes, I can use this for any number of things. I can put Aunt Martha's address. I can put a list of which cards I gave her. I can put, the date that I gave her the cards. I can put all kinds of information in here for Aunt Martha. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And you'll see right here in the Given To category, those 4 cards have now been given to Aunt Martha. Well, now I'm going to come in, I'm going to choose some others, and I'm going to give them to a helper. Now, if I give these to Aunt Martha too, I can just select her name. I don't have to re-enter her again. But again, I'm going to give them to a new helper. Now, the thing that's nice about the temple helper, it does not have to be a person. This could be the 4th Ward Young Women. And again, I can put whatever I want in the notes, but those cards have now been given to the 4th Ward Young Women. And I can sort on any of these columns. If I want to sort by name, I can do that, or by ordinance, or by given to. If I sort by given to, I can see all of the helpers sorted together. And again, the last activity. Okay, now, one thing that's really cool is I can go in here to view the helpers, and I can see the helpers, me, Aunt Martha, and the 4th Ward Young Women. I can see how many cards were given to each of the helpers, how many have been completed, the last date that they worked on it, and a progress bar to show me an overall view. This is great so that if you go in there and see that you gave it to Uncle Ed and he hasn't done any work at all, and the last time he worked on it was 2 years ago, you can easily spot that so that you could ask him for your cards back. Okay. Now, there's also a couple of other nice little items here. I can select one of these cards, and I can click on Reprint. Now, what that means is, and you'll see that when I click on that, when I select a card and ask it to reprint, it's going to come up and say, you're about to create a new family ordinance request for cards that have already been printed. If you proceed, be certain that the original cards are destroyed. So what this is saying is, usually you don't want to print additional cards because there's a chance that work does end up getting done twice. And so what happens is if you know those cards are completely lost or they got destroyed or whatever, you can reprint an FOR to print a card that's already been printed, but it's just asking you to be careful with that. The final option here is remove. What this lets you do is remove cards. Now, as you can see, when you have some of these cards for Andrew Mitchell right here, you can see that this work has been done, but it still shows in the list. What that means is when a card is finished, even if FamilySearch is going to try to take that away and make it disappear, RootsMagic is keeping track of it so that you can actually see progress on those helpers. If RootsMagic was to go and start taking these cards away as work was completed, you're not going to actually be able to see that progress. So RootsMagic is going to keep track of that. And so as work is done, as a card is complete, you can come down here and check the cards that are actually complete, and you can say remove those, and RootsMagic will remove those cards from your temple ordinance list. So if you want to keep track of all of those, even after the work's been done, you can do it, or you can go ahead and remove them as the work gets done. Okay, so that is an overview of the LDS features in New Family Search. It looks like we have a little bit of time, so are there any questions? Mike?
Okay. Yeah. Just looking over this. Yeah,
it looks like Mike's actually been doing a pretty good job of answering a lot of these questions as they've been coming in. One question.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's a...
I see one question. When will RootsMagic 4 be available for Mac computers? Okay, that's not specifically Family Search related, but since we get asked it so often, I'll go ahead and try to answer that. At this point, we are waiting for the programming tools that we use to become available for a Mac. We don't know what the time frame on that is. We're hoping it's soon. In the meantime, on our blog, on at blog.rootsmagic.com, we do have an article on running RootsMagic on a Mac computer. So RootsMagic will run on Macs under Fusion or Parallels or Crossover. There's a number of different ways to do that. But as for a native one, we're hoping that that those tools become available pretty soon, because our users would like us to write a Mac version, and we like to keep our users happy. So that is something that is in the plans.
Okay, one thing, when you're typing questions, if you can keep it all in one box, because if you type part of a question and then hit enter, and then you put in the other half, in the time that you're entering the other half of the question, 10 other people may have typed a question in there, so it's hard to track these fragmented questions.
Okay,
there have been several questions. Oh.
Okay, I see one. Can you change helpers to get work done? And yeah, I kind of breezed over that real quick. In the FamilySearch Central, so when I come up here and go to FamilySearch Central, the top row of tasks to do is going to show that you're logged in, and you can log out right there. But you can also go into helper mode to help another person. So if I click on that, it's going to allow you to enter that person's name, birth date, and their helper access number. For those who want to do help other people, you know what that means. But you can do that and log in, and you will be in helper mode. And when you're in helper mode, every one of the screens that have to do with Family Search is going to have a yellow bar across the top that states you are in helper mode helping, and then it'll show you the name of that person you're helping.
Okay, we've had several questions. People, they've just kind of missed. Maybe you could reiterate. How do you, from the main screen, how do you get to the person tools and also the LDS ordinance tools? Okay,
when you have the Family Search features turned on, you'll have a little Family Search icon or a little Family Search tree right next to each person's name. Now, if that little icon is gray, that means this person, William Booth, has not been matched up to Family Search yet because his icon is gray. If I click on that little Family Search tree, RootsMagic brings up those tools to the Find Matches screen to let me look for matches to try to match my William Booth up with that William Booth up on Family Search. If that icon is blue, like for John Rostron Booth, it means I have already matched John Rostron Booth with John Rostron Booth up on Family Search. So if I click on his Family Search tree that's blue, RootsMagic goes to the same screen, but instead of Find Matches, it goes to the Share Data screen, where I can share data back and forth because he is already matched up.
Some people missed.
I was going to say, for the LDS tools, you have the little temple icon. So if you click on the little temple icon, it's also going to take you to that same screen, but it's going to select the Ordinances tab instead of the Find Matches or Share Data tab. And then finally, if you want to get to that Family Search Central, you will click up here on the button on the toolbar, the Family Search button, and that brings up the FamilySearch Central. And that's kind of your overview of how your data relates to new Family Search.
Okay, and some people had a question, how do you get to the filtering?
Okay, the way to get to the filtering is first you go to those Family Search person tools. And like I say, you can do that by clicking on a gray tree icon or a blue tree icon or a temple icon. They all go to the same screen, just different tabs. And if you go to that screen and it does not have the list of people on the left, click this little button right here with the little arrow pointing out. And when you click on that little button, it'll make that little screen, that little list, pop out to the side, and your filtering is right at the top of that. And then, so you have the special filtering. And this one, I guess I should mention, we talked about being matched to Family Search, not matched or changed. These are your options relating to temple work. You can filter it so that you show the people that are ready for temple work, the people that have their temple work complete, the people who are not ready for temple work, or the people who have reserved ordinances. So you have those extra options for that filtering to go along with the matched or not matched options. Okay. Again, a question. There's nothing available to the general public yet for a new Family Search. Yes, as we mentioned, the new Family Search is available to LDS members right now. It's basically kind of being beta tested, but later this year it will open up to everyone, and as soon as it opens up to everyone, these features will automatically work for you at that point without having to wait around for us to release an update. It's already in there, so we're basically just kind of ahead of the game right now. Okay. Okay. In the shared data, when you move something over from New Family Search into RootsMagic, like the birth date, and you move something that's over that was wrong, how do you delete it out of RootsMagic? So the question basically is, if I'm in this screen right here where I'm sharing data back and forth, if I move a piece of information over that was wrong, so for example, let's go ahead and pull in, let's pull in this immigration. I don't have immigration in RootsMagic, so I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to say add that as a new event in RootsMagic. Okay, I now have immigration in RootsMagic, but let's just say that this happens to be wrong. I've decided actually I didn't mean to do that, that's wrong. All you do is you come up here and say edit that RootsMagic person, and that brings up the edit screen, and you'll see the immigration right there, so you can select that and say delete the fact, and now it's gone. Okay, and so that removes it from RootsMagic.
Okay, and some people were asking, how can you see the contributor, where the information came from?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Okay, so the question is if I'm on this screen where I'm looking at my person side by side with this Family Search person I'm matched up to, how do I know which of this information is good? So for example, in RootsMagic, I have a birth date, June 28, 1836 in Bolton, Lancashire, England. Family Search has a whole bunch of them for me to choose from. One of them happens to match mine, and that's why they're lined up across. That's why there's no checkbox, because I don't need to move what's already there. But you'll see there's a bunch of other options right here. So I happen to find a piece of information. If I want to see who submitted this particular fact so I can decide whether I actually want to bring it over or not, I can click the little information icon to see more details. And when I click that, it's going to show me those details, plus it's going to show me who the contributor is. Now, sometimes the contributor will be kind of unknown, but a lot of times it will have a name. If these contributors have their name or their email address or their phone or their street address, if they've allowed you to see those pieces of information, those will be showing here as well. So if you go into one of these, you may actually be able to see the person's name and email. Now, I usually don't recommend, like for me, I have my name and I have my email address. I don't put my phone or address in there because I don't necessarily particularly want people calling me, with questions, but I don't mind receiving an email. So I allow my name and my email. Some people don't, they may just put their full name. So whatever we show here is going to be dependent on what that contributor actually wants to allow you to see. And sometimes on those where they say unknown, Gail Evans has said that when it comes to unknown, it's because that person has not registered with New Family Search. There's also times when the New Family Search, they just don't know who submitted a particular piece of information. So you'll see that. One side note, sometimes there may be information that you submitted, but that it's actually not tied to you. If that's the case, you can go to Family Search, and this you do have to actually do from the website. You can go and actually claim one of those Family Search IDs and say, that was actually me, I submitted that, and they can go, you have to send that to them, they have to do that manually, but they can go check if that particular ID really was tied to you, and if it was, they will take that contributor ID and kind of tie it into your Family Search login so that you then have, quote, control over those particular pieces of information. Okay, any other questions here? Okay, will there be a manual published concerning RootsMagic 4 and New Family Search in more depth than today's webinar? Most likely we won't be printing a manual. The reason for that, we may put up a PDF or something like that. We won't be printing a manual because Family Search is changing, or New Family Search changes so often that we've actually had to do a complete rewrite of the Family Search code a couple of times already. You don't necessarily see that up on the interface. The interface, we're trying to keep that the same so that you're not having to relearn how to use features every time Family Search changes under the hood. But there are enough changes there that a printed book or a printed manual could become out of date fairly quickly. But we could look at doing a PDF that goes into this, more detail than this webinar. Is Family Search different than New Family Search? Yes, right now it is. Right now, Family Search is, when you go to www.familysearch.org, that is Family Search. That's open to everybody. Okay, let's call New Family Search, in other words, new.familysearch.org. That's this part that we're talking about, this big collaborative tree where everybody can be working on the same large online database at the same time. That's the one that is currently not available. It's kind of being beta tested, so that is different. But down the road, when it does become available, the new.familysearch.org will be merged into FamilySearch.org. So you would go to FamilySearch.org and be able to look up the historical records, be able to look up the other things, and also be able to go to this collaborative family tree. This feature, what's called New Family Search, will be known as Family Search Family Tree. It will be just a part of the overall Family Search website. Okay, a question: can the general public go to an LDS library and use the New Family Search? You can go to LDS library and one of the volunteers there can help you out, but you won't be able to log in to New Family Search there any differently than being able to just do it from home. Okay, when you transfer from Family Search to RootsMagic, vice versa, does the source information transfer as well? We have actually been asked by the Family Search Department to not transfer those sources right now. For those who do have access to FamilySearch, to new FamilySearch, you've seen that the sources are pretty simplistic, whereas RootsMagic sources are built on templates based on evidence explained and standards, where you can actually create very powerful, sophisticated sources. Family Search Department knows that, and they are actually working on updating the source handling in New Family Search. And so they've asked us not to be transferring those sources yet, because any sources that we send to New Family Search will just be trashed. I shouldn't say trashed, that's a little harsh. They will be modified beyond recognition. Maybe that's better. And so what they would like us to do is kind of wait until they get that source handling down. And once they do that, we will put a function into RootsMagic to go through any information, for example, that you've added to New Family Search, and at that point send the good template family sources up to New Family Search. Okay. I guess we're done.
Okay. So, in terms of odds and ends, again, this webinar was recorded, and we should have it up sometime tomorrow morning at rootsmagic.com/webinars. At that page, you can sign up for future webinars, look at our calendar and schedule for the future. And there's also a link to a survey that you can take where you can let us know about which topics you're interested in learning more about, so we can plan our future webinars. Okay, and thank you very much for coming, and we hope you've learned a lot and will join us for future webinars.